Quick review. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Act 3, Scenes 2 and 3 right now. For those of you who have not don't have those summarized on your summary sheet, make sure you have that out and you're doing that right now. Because we watched them on Friday, and then I didn't get the video up over the weekend, so I'm just going to kind of give you the rundown, and then you can just write them down, and we'll go from there. So Act 3, Scene 2 was pretty simple. It's between the nurse and Juliet, and at the beginning of the scene, Juliet is very happy. She's talking about how much she's in love because she and Romeo got married, not that long ago, like hours ago. And the nurse comes in with bad news, and she tells Juliet that Tybalt has been murdered and that Romeo is the one who's killed him. And of course, Juliet is devastated that Tybalt is dead, but she's way more upset about the fact that Romeo, his punishment is that he's banished. And so she's upset because she can't see him ever again, so she thinks. So that's it for scene 2. The nurse comes in, lets Juliet know, and then Juliet's devastated, mostly because of Romeo's banishment. Now, scene 3, we find that Romeo has been hiding in Friar Lawrence's cell, and then Friar Lawrence comes and tells Romeo that he has been banished. And Romeo says, "Banishment! Be merciful, say death." So he would much rather be put to death because then he wouldn't have to live with the fact that he doesn't have to see, or that he doesn't get to see, that he doesn't get to see Juliet anymore. If he were dead, he wouldn't have to worry about it, and it would be fine. It would be way better. Oh, excuse me. So then, Friar Lawrence gets pretty upset with Romeo, and he kind of is like, you need to stop acting like a baby. You're acting like a child. You need to stop whining, because as long as you're alive, and as long as she's alive, there's something to be grateful for, and there's hope, because that means that someday you can maybe be together. Okay? So then the nurse comes in and says, "Oh, Juliet's been crying. She misses you. She wants to see you." And so then Friar Lawrence says, "Okay, here's the plan. Romeo, you're going to go see Juliet, and you're going to say goodbye." He says, "But you have to make sure that you leave Verona before the sun comes up, because if you get caught, you're going to get killed." Okay? And then he says, "Wait in Mantua, and I will send word to you, and we're going to figure this out. I'll talk to the prince. We'll see if we can get things, maybe things will blow over eventually, but just be patient." And that's it for scene 3. So make sure you have that. Now, scene 4 is also pretty short, and it's at the Capulet's house, and it's Capulet, Lady Capulet, and Paris. And Capulet, I'm just going to go ahead and start reading. Capulet says, "Things have fallen out, sir, so unluckily that we have had no time to move our daughter. Look you, she loved her kinsman Tybalt dearly, and so did I. Well, we were born to die." Juliet, sad. "'Tis very late, she'll not come down tonight. I promise you, but for your company I would have been abed an hour ago." Paris says, "These times of woe afford no time to woo. Madam, good night. Commend me to your daughter." Lady Capulet says, "I will, and know her mind early tomorrow. Tonight she's mewed up to her heaviness." So in that little chunk right there, Capulet says, "We're sorry that we haven't talked to Juliet about marrying you because she's just too sad. We're all too sad." And Paris is like, "No, it's fine. Like, it's totally cool. I get it. You guys need to grieve." And so then Paris is like, "Okay, I'll go." But Capulet calls him back again. And Capulet says, "Sir Paris, I will make a desperate tender of my child's love. I think she will be ruled in all respects by me. Nay, more, I doubt it not. Wife, go you to her ere you go to bed. Acquaint her here for my son Paris's love, and bid her, mark you me, on Wednesday next. But soft, what day is this?" Paris says, "Monday, my lord." Capulet says, "Monday! Ha ha! Well, Wednesday is too soon. A Thursday let it be. A Thursday tell her she shall be married to this noble earl." So in that section right there, what has Capulet just said that Juliet's going to do on Thursday? She's going to marry Paris. And that's a problem, because she's already married. So then Capulet continues and says, "Will you be ready? Do you like this haste? We'll keep no great ado, a friend or two. For hark you, Tybalt being slain so late, it may be thought we held him carelessly, being our kinsman, if we revel much. Therefore we'll have some half a dozen friends, and there an end. But what say you to Thursday?" And Paris says, "My lord, I wish that Thursday were tomorrow." And Capulet says, "Well, get you gone, a Thursday be it then. Go you to Juliet ere you go to bed. Prepare her, wife, against this wedding day. Farewell, my lord. Light, to my chamber ho. Afore me it is so very, very late, that we may call it early by and by. Good night." And then everyone leaves. So, for scene 4, all you have to write is that Capulet has informed Paris that he and Juliet will get married on Thursday. And it's kind of funny because at first he's like, "Oh yeah, get married on Wednesday." And he's like, wait a minute, today's Monday. And then he says, okay, Thursday or Wednesday's too soon. We better go with Thursday. So we'll get married Thursday instead. So now Juliet has to get married to Paris on Thursday. But again, that's a big problem because she's already married. Make sure you have that written on your summary sheet. The next scene is scene 5. This one's a little bit longer and more complicated. Romeo and Juliet are the first ones on the scene. Now, we've skipped forward in time a little bit. It's actually early the next morning. So the sun is coming up. They've spent the night together, and now it's time for Romeo to leave, so they're saying goodbye. And we have the day versus night motif again, because they're constantly talking about, oh, the lark is singing, and a lark is a morning bird. And then Juliet's like, no, it's not the lark, it's the nightingale, because she doesn't want the night to be over. Because as soon as it's sunup, that means that Romeo has to leave, and that they're going to be separated. And they might not see each other ever again. So there's that day versus night motif again, okay? So at the beginning of scene 5, we're at the Capulet's orchard, enter Romeo and Juliet above at the window. Juliet says, wilt thou be gone? It is not yet near day. It was the nightingale, and not the lark, that pierced the fearful hollow of thine ear. Nightly she sings of yon pomegranate tree. Believe me, love, it was the nightingale. She's trying to convince Romeo to stay because it's not morning yet, even though it's morning. Romeo says, it was the lark, the herald of the morn, no nightingale. Look, love, what envious streaks do lace the severing clouds in yonder east. Night's candles are burnt out, and jocund day stands tiptoe on the misty mountain tops. I must be gone and live, or stay and die. Juliet. Yon light is not daylight, I know it, I. It is some meteor that the sun exhales to be to thee this night a torchbearer and light thee on thy way to Mantua. Therefore stay, thou needest not to be gone. Romeo says, let me be taken, let me be put to death. I am content, so thou wilt have it so. I'll say yon grey is not the morning's eye, 'tis but the pale reflex of Cynthia's brow. Nor that is not the lark that whose notes do beat the vaulty heaven so high above our heads. I have more care to stay than will to go. So he's like, okay, I'll stay. Let them take me, let them kill me, I don't care. Come death and welcome, Juliet wills it so. How is it, my soul? Let's talk, it is not day. Juliet says, well, she kind of changes her mind. She says, it is, as in, it is actually day. She says, hie hence, be gone away. It is the lark that sings so out of tune, straining harsh discords and unpleasing sharps. Some say the lark makes sweet division. This doth not so, for she divideth us. Some say the lark and loathed toad changed eyes. Oh, now I would they had changed voices too, since arm from arm that voice doth us affray, hunting thee hence with hunts up to the day. Oh, now be gone, more light and light it grows. Romeo, more light and light, more dark and dark our woes. So right there in that section of Juliet's, excuse me, she talks about how the lark is singing out of tune and it's very harsh because she hates the sound of the lark because that means that it's morning, which means they have to be separated. Okay, so then the nurse comes in and she says, Madam, and Juliet says, Nurse? Nurse says, your lady mother is coming to your chamber. The day is broke. Be wary, look about. And then she leaves. Juliet says, then window, let day in and let life out. And what do you think she means when she says let life out? Romeo's sneaking out through the window, and he is her life. So the window is letting life out. Romeo says, farewell, farewell, one kiss, and I'll descend. And then he starts down the ladder. All right, then Juliet says, art thou gone? So, my lord, my love, my friend, I must hear from thee every day and the hour, for in a minute there are many days. Oh, by this count I shall be much in years ere I again behold my Romeo. Romeo says, farewell. I will omit no opportunity that may convey my greetings, love, to thee. So they're going to try to keep in communication. They're going to try to send messages back and forth. Then Juliet says, oh, thinkest thou we shall ever meet again? Romeo says, I doubt it not, and all these woes shall serve for sweet discourses in our time to come. O God, Juliet says, I have an ill-divining soul. Methinks I see thee now thou art below as one dead in the bottom of a tomb. Either my eyesight fails, or thou lookest pale. Romeo says, and trust me, love, in my eyes, so do you. Dry sorrow drinks our blood. Adieu, adieu. This part right here is a little bit eerie, because Juliet's kind of having like a vision. She says, I'm looking down at you because you're climbing down, to the ground, but it feels like I'm looking down into the bottom of your tomb, into the bottom of your grave. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing there because she has this very uneasy feeling. Okay, but then Romeo says, adieu, adieu, and he leaves. Then Juliet's by herself and says, O fortune, fortune, all men call thee fickle. If thou art fickle, what dost thou with him that is renowned for faith? Be fickle, fortune, for then I hope thou wilt not keep him long, but send him back. If you read the side, it says, changeable in loyalty or affection. That's what fickle means. Juliet asks why fickle fortune has anything to do with Romeo, who is the opposite of fickle. So she's just like, upset, obviously, because he's gone. Then Lady Capulet calls, Ho, daughter, are you up? Juliet says, who is it that calls? It is my lady mother. Is she not down so late or up so early? What unaccustomed cause procures her hither? She's like, why is my mom coming to my room right now? This is weird. She never comes at this time. So Lady Capulet comes in and says, why, how now, Juliet? Juliet says, Madam, I am not well. Lady Capulet, evermore weeping for your cousin's death? What, wilt thou wash him from his grave with tears? And if thou couldst not make him live, therefore have done. Some grief shows much of love, but much of grief shows still some want of wit. So she's like, you're still crying over Tybalt? Like, it's okay to be sad, but, like, it's time to start moving on. So Juliet says, yet let me weep for such a feeling lost, Lady Capulet. So shall you feel the loss, but not the friend for which you weep. The loss I cannot choose, but ever weep the friend. And then the next page, Lady Capulet says, well, girl, thou weepest not so much for his death as that the villain lives, which slaughtered him. So now she's talking about Romeo. And she has to be very careful with what she says. She has to choose her words wisely because she doesn't want to lie to her mom. But on the same token, she also she can't let her mom know what's actually going on. Okay, so Juliet's like, what villain, madam? And Lady Capulet says, that same villain, Romeo. Now, Juliet has an aside here, which means her mom can't hear what she's saying right now. Okay? So she says, villain, and he be many miles asunder. God pardon him, I do, with all my heart. And yet no man like he doth grieve my heart. Lady Capulet says, that is because the traitor murderer lives. So she thinks that Juliet is so sad because Romeo is still living. Because, he killed her cousin. And then Juliet says, I, madam, from the reach of these my hands would none but I might venge my cousin's death. Lady Capulet says, we will have vengeance for it, fear thou not. Then weep no more. I'll send to one in Mantua, where that same banished runagate doth live, shall give him such an unaccustomed dram that he shall soon keep Tybalt company, and then I hope thou wilt be satisfied. So, what is she going to do? She's going to literally hire a hitman to kill Romeo, okay? So then Juliet says, indeed, I never shall be satisfied with Romeo till I behold him dead. Is my poor heart so for a kinsman vexed? This part's a little bit tricky. She's being clever with her words because she takes this. It looks like one sentence, but she's actually split it into two different thoughts. So right here it says, I never shall be satisfied with Romeo till I behold him. So right here she is saying, I'll never be satisfied with Romeo until I can be with him again. But she adds this dead at the end. So her mother thinks that she's saying, indeed, I never shall be satisfied with Romeo till I behold him dead. When in reality, Juliet, is putting dead with the second part of the sentence. She says, dead is my poor heart, so for a kinsman vexed. Okay, so her heart is dead because Romeo was banished. Right? Now she says, madam, if you could find out but a man to bear a poison, I would temper it. That Romeo should upon receipt thereof soon sleep in quiet. Oh, how my heart abhors to hear him named, and cannot come to him, to wreak the love I bore my cousin Tybalt upon his body that has slaughtered him. This also is kind of tricky, because she says, oh, how my heart abhors to hear him named and cannot come to him. Her mom thinks she's saying that she hates Romeo's name because she hates him and can't get her revenge on him. But obviously we know that Juliet means that she actually, hates to hear his name because she can't be with him, and it makes her sad. Okay, so that's irony. That's dramatic irony because we know what's going on, but Lady Capulet doesn't. Lady Capulet says, find thou the means and I'll find such a man, but now I'll tell thee joyful tidings, girl. She has good news. Juliet, and joy comes well in such a needy time. What are they, I beseech your ladyship? Lady Capulet, well, thou hast a careful father, child, one who, to put thee from thy heaviness, hath sorted out a sudden day of joy, that thou expectst nor I looked not for. Juliet says, madam, in happy time, what day is that? And Lady Capulet says, marry, my child. Early next Thursday morn, the gallant, young, and noble gentleman, the County Paris at St. Peter's Church, shall happily make thee there a joyful bride. Okay. Now right here we understand why Capulet has agreed all of a sudden to let Paris marry Juliet, and it's because he thinks that Juliet is super, super sad, and some way to make her feel better is to actually have her get married. we understand right now why Lord Capulet wants them to get married so suddenly and so quickly. Is because he thinks that Juliet is so super depressed about Tybalt, and so he thinks that marriage will fix that. He's looking for a way to make everyone happy, to kind of get rid of this, dark atmosphere that surrounds Tybalt's death. And then, so Lady Capulet gives her the news and says, Thursday morning you're going to marry Paris. And Juliet says, now by St. Peter's Church and Peter too, he shall not make me there a joyful bride. I wonder at this haste that I must wed ere that he that should be my husband comes to woo. I pray you tell my lord and father, madam, I will not marry yet, and when I do, I swear it shall be Romeo, whom you know I hate, wink wink, rather than Paris. These are news indeed. So she's like, I don't want to marry him. I'd rather marry Romeo. Now we know that she actually would rather marry Romeo because she loves him. But her mother thinks that, that's how much she hates Paris, is that she would rather marry Romeo instead. So Lady Capulet says, here comes your father. Tell him so yourself and see how he will take it at your hands. So the Capulet and the nurse come in. Now, Juliet is about to tell her father that she does not want to marry Paris. And it is not going to go well. Her father is going to get very upset. So pay attention to his, how he talks to her. So the Capulet comes in and says, when the sun sets, the air doth drizzle dew, but for the sunset of my brother's son it rains down right. How now, a conduit girl, what, still in tears, evermore showering? In one little body thou counterfeitest a bark, a sea, a wind, for still thy eyes, which I may call the sea, do ebb and flow with tears. The bark thy body is, sailing in this salt flood, the winds thy sighs, who raging with thy tears, and they with them, without a sudden calm will overset thy tempest-tossed body. How now, wife? Have you delivered to her our decree? So right there, Capulet walks in and he notices that Juliet's still upset, and he's like, you're still crying? You're still upset over this? He's like, wife, why have you not told her the good news? Like, why is she sad if she knows this good news? So then Lady Capulet says, aye, sir, but she will none. She gives you thanks. I would the fool were married to her grave. So Capulet says, soft, take me with you, wife. How? Will she none? Does she not give us thanks? Is she not proud? Does she not count her blessed, unworthy as she is, that we have wrought so worthy a gentleman to be her bridegroom? Juliet says, not proud that you have, but thankful that you have. Proud can I never be of what I hate, but thankful even for hate that is meant love. So she says, I thank you for thinking of me, but I'm not going to marry him. I don't want to. So Capulet says, how, not chop logic. What is this? Proud, and I thank you not, and yet not proud? Mistress minion you, thank me no thankings, no proud me no prouds, but fellow your fine joints against Thursday next to go with Paris to St. Peter's Church, or I will drag thee on a hurdle thither. Out, you green sickness carrion, out, you baggage, you tallow face. He is cussing her out right now. He is not happy at all. And on the next page, Lady Capulet says, Fie, what, are you mad? Juliet says, good father, I beseech you on my knees, hear me with patience, but to speak a word. And Capulet says, hang thee, young baggage, disobedient wretch, I tell thee what, get thee to a church on Thursday, or never after look me in the face. Speak not, reply not, do not answer me. My fingers itch, which means, if you look over here, I feel like hitting you. He's outrageously angry. Wife, we scarce thought us blessed that God had lent us but this only child, but now I see that one is one too much. Ouch. And that we have a curse in having her out on her hilding. So right there, he basically just says, I wish you had never been born. This is sad. The nurse steps in and says, God in heaven bless her. You are to blame, my lord, to rate her so. Capulet says, and why, my lady Wisdom? Hold your tongue, good Prudence. Smatter with your gossips. Go. Nurse, I speak no treason. Capulet, oh, Goddy, good in. Nurse, may not one speak? Capulet, peace, you mumbling fool. Utter your gravity or a gossip's bull, for we need it not. And Lady Capulet says, you are too hot, which means what? He is way too angry right now. So then he's going to go on an even bigger tangent. And he says, God's bread, it makes me mad. Day, night, late, early, at home, abroad, alone, in company, waking or sleeping still. My care hath been to have her matched. And having now provided a gentleman of princely parentage, of fair dimensions, youthful and nobly trained, stuffed, as they say, with honorable parts, proportioned as one's thought would wish a man, and then to have a wretched puling fool, a whining mammet in her fortune's tender, To answer, I'll not wed. I cannot love. I am too young. I pray you pardon me. But, and you will not wed. I'll pardon you. Graze where you will. You shall not house with me. Look to it. Think on it. I do not use to jest. Thursday is near. Lay hand on heart. Advise. And you be mine. I'll give you to my friend. And you be not. Hang, beg, starve, die in the streets. For by my soul I'll never acknowledge thee, nor what is mine shall never do thee good. Trust to it. Bethink you. I'll not be forsworn. And then he charges out of the room. So right there, basically what happened is he said, if you don't marry Paris, you are not my daughter. I have officially disowned you. You can die in the streets, and I wouldn't even care. So he's pretty upset. So then Juliet said, is there no pity sitting in the clouds that sees into the bottom of my grief? Oh, sweet my mother, cast me not away. Delay this marriage for a month, a week. Or if you do not, make thy bridal beds in that dim monument where Tybalt lies. She's like, please help me. Have pity on me. Lady Capulet says, talk not to me, for I'll not speak a word. Do as thou wilt, for I have done with thee. So Lady Capulet does the same thing, basically. She's like, do what you want, I'm done. Then Lady Capulet exits. So now it's just Juliet and the nurse. And obviously she's going to ask the nurse for advice and for comfort because, she's kind of like her mom. And Juliet says, oh God, oh nurse, how shall this be prevented? My husband is on earth. So right there she's like, I already have a husband on earth. I cannot take two. That's against, everything that, their whole religion. It's not okay. My husband is on earth, my faith in heaven. How shall that faith return again to earth unless the husband send it to me from heaven by leaving earth? Comfort me, counsel me. Alack, alack, that heaven should practice stratagems upon so soft a subject as myself. What sayest thou? Hast thou not a word of joy, some comfort, nurse? Now the nurse is going to give Juliet some advice, so make sure you pay attention to catch that. The nurse says, Faith, here it is. Romeo is banished, and all the world is nothing. That he dares ne'er come back to challenge you. Or if he do, it needs must be by stealth. Then since the case so stands as now it doth, I think it best you married with the county. Oh, he is a lovely gentleman. Romeo's a dish-clout to him. An eagle, madam, hath not so green, so quick, so fair an eye as Paris hath. Beshrew my very heart, I think you are happy in this second match, for it excels your first. Or if it did not, your first is dead, or 'twere as good as he were as living here, and you no use of him. And so the nurse says, I think you should just marry the Count Paris. It's a good match. He's good for you. He's better than Romeo, and plus your marriage with Romeo is basically dead anyway. So your best option is to marry Count Paris. And Juliet says, Speakest thou for this from thy heart? Nurse says, and from my soul too, else beshrew them both. Juliet says, Amen. Nurse, what? Juliet, well, thou hast comforted me marvelous much. Go in and tell my lady I am gone, having displeased my father, to Friar Lawrence's cell to make confession and be absolved. So the nurse believes that Juliet right here is agreeing to marry Paris, because Juliet says, okay, you've comforted me. I'm going to go to Friar Lawrence's cell, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness for upsetting my father. Okay? That's not what she's actually going to do, though. So the nurse says, Marry I will, and this is wisely done. And then the nurse leaves, and Juliet says, Ancient damnation. So she's mad that the nurse is not on her side. O most wicked fiend, is it more sin to wish me thus forsworn, or to dispraise my lord with that same tongue which she hath praised him with above compared so many 1,000 times? Go, counselor, thou and my bosom henceforth shall be twain. I'll to the friar to know his remedy. If all else fail, myself have power to die. So the real reason she's going to the friar is to ask for help to fix the situation. What can we do to get out of this? And if nothing works, she says, myself have power to die. And that is the end of Act 3. You do have some questions you need to answer. You're going to do 1 and 2. And then you're also going to do 5 and 6. And those are on the slides. So you have 1, 2, 5, and 6. Now these are going to be due on Wednesday. Make sure you answer them completely. Make sure you use complete sentences. And also make sure that your summary sheet is filled out.